Hi there! This is my first full day in Dalat in the mountains of Vietnam, and after having walked around a little bit yesterday and having studied some maps, I think I have a very rough understanding of how this city is laid out. So it is all centered around this relatively large lake in the middle of the town. This is about 2 kilometers long, and I am now at the western end of this lake. And this is actually what I would consider the tourist center of this town. Over there is what I would say the main tourist region with the market, with tourist shops, with restaurants and so on. But I will go there later today because this place actually only comes to life in the late afternoon and in the evening hours after it's getting dark. So what I'm going to do first is walk that way on the southern side of the lake, because there are supposed to be some historical building from French colonial time and some other attractions. One of the problems with getting around here is that many of the historical buildings are widespread around the center of the town. So if you want to see everything, you really need to walk around many kilometers or take a taxi, take a guided tour, which I am not planning. But there are also a number of things that you can see walking around in the center. And that's what I'm going to do today. Many beautiful parks around the lake. And I like to mention once again, I mentioned it already yesterday in my video, that this place, this city of at least 200,000 inhabitants, is at an elevation of 1,500 meters above sea level. And yesterday evening I've done some investigations, and I was wondering what cities in Europe are there at that altitude, and came out that there is only one quote-unquote city at 1,500 meters, and that is Davos. Now Davos, of course, doesn't have 200,000 inhabitants, it has something like 10,000, so you cannot call this a city. But that's interesting. So there is actually no city in Europe that even comes close to this altitude, but you don't notice it. So it is quite warm already, and there are of course cities in South America, India, Nepal, Tibet, which are at 3,000 meters and more, but this is quite unique, I would say. Let's start with some modern architecture. I have no idea what that is. I think it's just a restaurant. Over there, this is a larger building, also very modern, and I think it is a cinema. This looks somewhat like an amphitheater, and probably over there on the square this is sometimes used as a stage, but actually I don't really know. So let's walk up towards that cinema. Of course, in a place like that, these two characteristic flags should not be missing. So what is it? I think the entrance is on the other side. So let's walk around it. Okay, actually looked more impressive yesterday when I saw it from far away, driving by with my VIP bus. Just noticing I was wrong, it is not a cinema, it's the opera house of Dalat. This is not what I mean by French colonial buildings. In this town, in the city, it's often quite hard to distinguish between the actual buildings from the colonial time. In this town means mainly 1920s to 1940s. So there is not much architectures from the 19th century, but in many cases it is difficult to distinguish this from these, let's say, fake colonial style buildings. So this is just a modern hotel, which I guess has been built less than 10 years ago. I've been walking around about 20 minutes. There are lots of these, let's say, fake European style buildings. I mean, when I say fake, I don't mean it negatively. They actually look quite nice. But now I'm getting to the first actual building from French colonial time, and looks like I need to buy an entrance ticket. Hello. So the entrance fee is 5,000 dong, which is not much, 20 cents, something like that. And for that you can visit this building here. What do you think it is? It's the railway station of Dalat, and it has been built in the 1930s and 40s. It used to be the first railway station in Vietnam, but as you can imagine, it's a bit difficult to build railways in this mountain region. So currently I think it's not really in use. It is only a tourist attraction. I think you can take short train rides of about 10 kilometers or something like that, but that's only for tourists. Interesting windows, wondering if that is original. And here we are. 2 tracks. But as I said, the first railway station in Vietnam. Let's see. There is something else. Oh yeah, I think if the other guys are walking on the rails to take a selfie, I will do the same thing. Also, I think I have heard somewhere that it's not a good thing to do that. I believe it's safe in this case. There are some historical trains which are being used as a restaurant. Maybe I'm gonna have a coffee here, no matter how overpriced it is, but I think probably it will not even be overpriced. Look at that huge hotel over there. Also in this pseudo-colonial, or should I say eclectic style. So this is definitely a little bit overdone, I would say. Okay. Let's go on the tracks again to get a better view of the railway station. Okay, so as I said, so far this is really the only building where I can definitely say that it has been built by the French. And yes, 1930s, 1940s, you can see it is quite modern. Actually, the coffee is not overpriced at all. The most expensive one is still less than €1. I think I'm gonna go for another salt coffee. Salted coffee with ice. Some more European style architecture, but you always see together with this, let's say, adventurous electrical installations. Not really sure if I'm on the right way here, but this is supposed to be the entrance of one of the colonial palaces. This is only one of the buildings, smaller one, palace number 2, which is, I think, also used as a hotel. When I came in, there was something that looked like a ticket counter, but nobody was interested, so I'm just walking around. So these palaces, there are 3 of them. They have been built in the early 20th century, and they have not only been used by the French, but also by the Vietnamese emperors, the last Vietnamese emperors of the Nguyen dynasty, who kind of tightly cooperated with the French colonial power. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe I've been walking in the wrong direction, because this doesn't really look like 1920s architecture, but you never know. It's all a bit different. It's all a little bit different here in Vietnam from what you would expect from Europe. But if you ask me, I don't know. This looks more like 1960s. But by now I am quite sure that I've been walking the wrong way. These things happen when you're exploring yourself without taking a tourist guide, but that is the way I like it. So you get to some quite interesting, in this case you can almost say lost places. And from here you also have a nice view over the surrounding landscape, these hills. Quite a weird place. Looks somehow abandoned and lost, but still it is obvious that they are putting a lot of work into the gardening. This is obviously not where tourists like me are supposed to walk around. But what can I do? Trying to get back to that road, but it is quite steep, but should be doable here. Okay. Okay, made it. That looks a bit more like it. Could actually be some building from the early 20th century. Here is another one. But still, this is not exactly what I expected. So somehow it doesn't look like the summer residence of the last Vietnamese emperor. But who knows? It's also a bit confusing that almost nobody is here except me. Okay, there were some people over there doing some wedding photos. So if people are doing wedding photos in a place here in Vietnam, you can be sure that it's somehow an important place for whatever reason. But I don't know. I mean, it's a nice park, some nice buildings, but I have to say that I expected something else. On the other hand, I like being surprised. This place here is often called Little Paris, so it comes with an Eiffel Tower. Well, it doesn't come close to the original, but looks a little bit like it. And on the other side of the road there is the cathedral. Cathedral next to the Eiffel Tower. Unfortunately, it seems to be closed. Cannot go inside. And once again, I am wondering what time period this is from. Probably early 20th century as well. Having another iced coffee. I never understood the concept of iced coffee, but somehow here in Vietnam I have developed a taste for it. And this is actually what everybody drinks here. Interestingly, this is sugar dissolved in water or something, but I don't want to have sugar with it. One important thing you need to consider when you are an European and travel to Asia, it is much harder in these cities to find out what is where, to find your way. When I come to any European city, it is pretty clear to me where the shopping areas are, where you can find restaurants and so on. That's not the case here. It is all much more chaotic. You just walk over to the next block and it's completely different. There is not necessarily only one center, there are multiple centers, all with a different kind of feel. So I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but you should consider that you need to have more time just finding your way around in these cities. Takes longer, but it is interesting. Just been walking up some random alley and found this, I don't know, kind of pagoda or temple with all these little houses. I'm afraid I have no idea what the meaning is. Reminds me a little bit of these altars that Vietnamese people often have in their homes. So once again, you leave the tourist street, get into a completely different world, and a few minutes later you are getting into the tourist zone again. Well, doesn't look like that, but these are actually the backsides of some hotels. Oh yeah, this is a weird place from my perspective. And look at this electrical installation, but it works, and that is what's important, just like the traffic works. Little Paris. Not really dinner time already, but I am hungry. I think I'm gonna have some street food, maybe a banh mi or some Vietnamese pizza. At this time of day, the market area is getting crowded. Okay, this is looking good. This is looking like a banh mi place. So I'm getting the banh mi with meatballs. Okay, thank you very much. Very good and spicy. Before I go back to the market area, I take a walk along the lake, and many people here rent a dap vit, and I'm really proud because this is where my deep knowledge of the Vietnamese language really shines. So these are these dap vit things, and I actually know what it means because I know the word xe đạp, which means bicycle. And from the menus of Vietnamese restaurants, I also know the word vit, which means duck. So these are paddling boats that look like a duck, or maybe more like a swan. One thing that makes this place special is that you see many people riding mountain bikes, jogging, and doing some other kinds of sports activities. Especially here at the shore of this lake. Okay, I'm wondering what the food is going to be like this evening. I went to a place where actually I don't see any European tourists, so maybe it's going to be good. Okay, that's my meal. Some beef with fried noodles and a salad. Tasty, but a bit difficult to eat. I always feel like an idiot when I'm eating with chopsticks. Okay guys, that was quite a rip-off. I paid about 10 euros for the meal and a beer. It was okay, but not really great. And I think my fault was that I didn't make it clear what the final price is going to be. Anyway. This is what the market area looks like in the early evening. It's about 7 o'clock. And I believe it's gonna get much more crowded a bit later. But I think that's it for today. The experience at the restaurant was a little bit disappointing, but all in all, it's a great place here in Dalat. It is obviously quite a chaotic city, but I don't mean it in a negative way, because I strongly believe that chaos is where the magic happens. So, see you next time. Bye bye.
Hello.